Dr. Ann McCormick, the founder of the Learning Center.
Thank you. I started to think, what guides my design? And I kept a list, starting at that time, 35 years ago, of design guidelines. Now, they're kind of like apples and monkeys and grapefruits. I haven't like compared tool apps against tool apps. It's like all thrown in there. Things for little kids, big kids or whatever, but I wanted to get examples of things that are currently on mobile devices that could help us understand and inspire us to make better apps. That's what this is my list to help me make better apps, and it's very precious to me. I'm sharing it with you because I think it might offer value. So these design guidelines were adopted by Apple when I gave them in a keynote to Alan Kay's Advanced Technology Group. They were published in Byte long ago, and they've been presented at the Stanford School of Design and so forth. And so this is a new historic moment for them to be presented here. So they're sourced, it's actually just my own list of what I look for. The way to use this list is to read it after your product is getting going. It's not a starting point because it's too conflicted, and there's things that are opposite, like that it's realistic and fantasy. It's like, well, you can't really do both of those. So it's not the source, it's more you're coming along and you think, oh, what could I do to make it better? So you could consider fine-tuning your product partway along with this list. And I welcome expanding it and editing. So I want you to revise this freely, help me get better examples of apps, send edits to me. I'll make a way to make these available online. They're on my website, but they're not accessible without a password. So the only thing I ask is if you change anything, keep the list the same length. When you put them all typed on a page with good spacing, they're 3 pages. But I broke them up to put them in PowerPoint for you today with the examples. The 5 categories that I use are, first of all, is it powerful learning? And by powerful learning, I'll explain what that means to me. Is it playful, which is a way that I talk about fun? Because there's fun that's just zoom, distracting, and there's fun that's engagement, like building something. There's a lot of kinds of fun, so I use the word playful. Is it beautiful aesthetically? Is it usable? And that could be a whole book, usability, testing lists, and all kinds of things. But I have a few simple things. And finally, is it worthwhile in terms of the values it conveys? So first, powerful learning. I want to know if there's a concrete element to it. I used Minecraft, which is a simulation, but it resembles real life in some way, and it also takes off in some other ways. It uses simulation and modeling that touches on the sweet spot of children developmentally. The particular, it's like the fairy tale that's right for an age. That's what you want to think about, and I think people who are around children a lot know that. But it's rooted in the child's own experience. Second, is it useful? Does it require the use of knowledge in new situations, or does it stop right where you've left the children? Does it invite application in the real world? Does it map connections and help you make those connections? Because transfer of knowledge is not automatic often. And does it cross topics or disciplines? And some people's do. The math products, Math Doodles, doesn't cross between math and science, but it crosses between the same model. It's multiple representations of one model, all in the same place. So it prompts the child to say, oh, that's simple. If I learn this, then I know all the other things. Is it profound? Does it reveal deep knowledge and invite insight? Does it pose thought-provoking questions that raise other questions? Does it challenge misconceptions? Almost no apps do that, but if you could think about how your app could, even in an off-screen experience, you can make a blog that goes with it that carries it into the application in the real world, the generativeness of other questions. My example for that is Skywalk. I was showing someone, do you know Skywalk? Who knows Skywalk? It's really wonderful. It knows the GPS and the tilting of the iPad has information that says, okay, it's that part of the sky you're pointing to. But then I went down to the ground. It's like, oh, this is the stars underneath the Earth on the other side. I don't usually think about that. So it challenges my misconception that that when the Earth is round, it's only this big. It's not the Earth I stand on. Another one is, does it have a conceptual base so that it moves from the concrete to the abstract? Does it use symbols and notation where, in the math that I do with a wonderful teacher who's now passed away, Mary Laycock, she says for every math problem, we first explore the materials, then we build something physically. Even if it's x plus 1 cubed, you build it with blocks. Then you sketch the model, and then you make an equation that plays it out, but the model's still in front of you. Then you explain it to someone else and apply it in a new situation. That helps. You use the symbols and notation, but you have the physical object in front of you. And her students scored in the top 1 percentile for 30 years, the entire school. Nobody didn't do well, even though it didn't teach the test at all. Another thing for me for powerful learning is that it's timeless. It connects people with the infinite. It offers a transcendental experience. It shows a connection between all things. And I found that the Beethoven Ninth Symphony did that. It's like you can't not be gripped by that. It's just so beyond ordinary experience. Even though it's one of my favorite pieces, I play it all the time, it still just carries you to a different level of awareness. And obviously things can't be all of these. I hope you've noticed. And finally, is it engaging? Does it invite invention and building? Use investigations, where sometimes you don't know even the parameters, let alone the right answers. Does it offer working tools and editors? And it's not too easy or too hard, because if it's too easy, it's not fun, and if it's too hard, it's not fun. And I think Math Doodles does that magnificently. Is it whole? Does it have a well thought out unifying idea, or is it really scattered? I think our apps are coming along really well with that there's a story or a truck or a bus or something that has a unifying idea. I like Skippy John Jones, which the kids, I tutor kids almost every day and have for a long time, and they love Skippy John Jones. It's an app that's just a nice book app. Elemental, does it show patterns and concepts and prompt the joy of the aha? Sometimes our zooming and our entertainment is not the same as feeling inside, oh, I get it, oh my gosh, look at that. Do you see how that's a different kind of enjoyment than zoom? Is it focused? Does it concentrate on the relevant elements and limit new information so that you can get what's going on, like Alphabet Wrangler? Does it progress? Does it have a clear path for making progress so that there's an ending that invokes triumph? Another one of another app like that is a PBS app, Martha Speaks. It has a path, and you know when you got to the end of it. So I'm trying to incorporate that in my work too. Is it structured? Does it lay a foundation, build upon it, like Maria Montessori talks about? Has it got appropriate scope? Like is it too big or too narrow? Does it have manageable steps and clear transitions? This is a tiny sneak preview of my new app that'll come out soon. I was hoping to show it today, but it's not fun enough, so we're going back around in that design cycle to improve it. Is it interactive in a continuous real-time interaction versus I touch something, it happens, I touch something, it happens, versus dragging something? You all know about the video games that you're taking something with you that's very compelling versus touch and wait. Well, at least on apps, you can often use your finger. And your finger carries your attention very well since it's connected to your body. Is it reflective? Does it help children notice their own insights and share them? If you've got a tool like Princess Fairy Tales, then you are expressing yourself. And I loved hearing the example from Carolyn of the child making up the little poem, and it's just so refreshing. Does it awaken you? Like, have you seen The Monster at the End of This Book? It's been out a while. I love that app. Kids do it over and over and over, and they think it's very funny when Grover's saying, don't turn the page, there's a monster at the end of this book. It sort of wakes you up. And is it exploratory? I think Letter School is fantastic, and it's probably the most competitive app to mine. I think it's wonderful, and I appreciate what they've done, because it's hard to have tracing letters work like they've made it. That there are many approaches and paths. You can go to lowercase letters, uppercase letters, numbers. You can go to Danielian. You can go to the different kinds of writing that are in schools. And it has an open-ended style. And my kids say, today I want to do all the numbers. And I think there are many more ways to be exploratory. They're much broader, but that's one example. Is it supportive? Does it provide enthusiastic support? Is it responsive to the needs and preferences of the children? Does it have a positive tone? Martha Speaks is definitely that. It talks quite a lot, but kids like to come back and back to it. Is it personal? Does it adapt to the interest, style, and needs of children and provide tools for recording their thoughts? I have Draw and Tell, which I just learned about today, as that example, and any tool could do that, but this one does it. I work with young children mainly, so that's why my examples are mainly for young children. And then I have a question mark, because I invite you to add what I would like to go back and take all my notes and rewrite these based on what people talked about, because there were wonderful insights here. Playful. Is it immersive? Does it invite participation and immersion, like Toka Boca Hair Salon? I love to cut the hair in hair salon. Also Fruit Ninja. You're just cutting apart that fruit. And I would love to get that quality into my reading app. It's hard because they're on a careful path that I've laid out, but it needs more slashing, of something that it's okay to slash like fruit. Is it intriguing? Does it stimulate curiosity and continuing interest? I could be interested in Beethoven's Ninth for ages, because you just can't get to the bottom of it. I've used the elements with children about 10 years old, and they've learned about the periodic table, and it invokes curiosity, which then you can do all kinds of things, because you can explain part of it and just play with it and open up and look at it. Is it dynamic? Does it present real-time events with no delays? Does it flow smoothly? It's very hard to get that flow so beautifully done. Trucks, I think, does that. Like, there isn't a glitch, there isn't a pause, like Warren talked about. It just kills it if there's like a second of delay. I'm trying to get those out of mine. Is it exciting? Does it present risk, conflict, danger, and surprise? Do you know about the Avengers? They have Marvel Classics has Stan Lee reading his own stories, and it's gripping. He talks about Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and my little boy who wouldn't read anything and who was going to be kicked out of kindergarten, which makes me so sad. God, he wore his Spider-Man costume, and he read this to me, and he felt he could read because he'd listened to Stan Lee, and then he'd read a page, and he owned it. And now he's really reading. I could get chills. But I feel that that was exciting to him because of the fabulous voice of the author. Is it purposeful? Does it offer closure, completion, and a sense of accomplishment? Again, I have Letter School, but lots of your apps have closure. Again, this is a juxtaposition. There's open-ended, so you can keep doing anything. And then there's something that has a path that you can complete, because it's very satisfying to complete something, like to win the game. You don't want to drop Monopoly in the middle. You want to have somebody win. Is it funny? Is it humorous? Does it integrate wit and mischief and silliness? Skippy John Jones does. He goes into his closet and he believes he's off with the Mexicans, and that even though he's a Siamese kid, he's really a Chihuahua. And he has he's bouncing on his bed, and he sees himself in the mirror. He said, I knew I wasn't a cat. I'm a Chihuahua. And it's very funny what he goes off to, the chimichangas, to explore things. And there's just so much silliness. He's not supposed to go in his closet, but he does. And it's just really good 6-year-old humor, which I share. Is it whimsical? Does it involve fantasy, stories, themes, and characters? I really like Cinderella this is Nosy Crow's Cinderella, because there's things to do inside it, and it's the classic story that is so beloved. It's played out in a way that has surprise and whimsy, besides the story being whimsical itself. And it's not whimsical to have a wicked stepsister, or I had a wicked stepmother, and it's really scary. So it's great to put those into fairy tale themes so that you can deal with them. Is it endearing? Does it have appealing and delightful elements, a personable voice? And again, I have the monster at the end of this book, because Grover Monster, it's Grover, is very endearing. Like, you just love him for what he does. Is it enduring? Does it have universal themes, long play value, elements that combine in many ways? And again, Beethoven's Ninth has that. Is it lively, like presenting characters that emanate vitality? Does it have a varied pace? Is there catchy music, realistic sound, something that makes it like Duck Duck Moose? Isn't that lively? Don't you just I want to play with that truck. That's a very nice quality that I would like to strive for more in my own work. Does it link to the real world? Does it point kids and families to specific off-screen world activities? I'm going to do that so that every activity has stuff you can do. Like, if you're having trouble making an H on the screen, draw it in sand, do it in Art of Glow, do it all the other ways you can do it. You don't have to stay in my app to succeed at that. So parents will know, not at the end of the quarter or semester, but that day, a circle of people around each child can know what they did if they sign up for it, and we can get it through COPA review. Also, people here have talked about taking photos, narrating. All of that can be links to the real world for the child. And I didn't put any words for rewarding, but I just thought trucks let you do things that are very rewarding. Is it elegant? Does it use design elements in a restrained way? I love the app Paper by 54. Have you seen that? It is gorgeous. It's so simple, I had trouble figuring out how to use it. But it's restrained like Zen poetry. Is it balanced? Here I couldn't find an example of this aspect of being balanced. That there's variety and consistency, like light and dark or blended. A lot of our little children's apps, I think, are appropriately pretty light. And there isn't but good stories often have a bad guy and something to overcome. Is it clear? Is it concise, meaningful? Are its graphics and text and video clear and clean? And does it have a clean layout and format? Is it musically inspiring and has a varied sound experience? The melodic and rhythmic and other aspects really smoothly done and integrated. That's one thing I think Scott Kim said at lunch. One of the things that we found out here is a lot of people have difficulty. This is not an easy thing to do. And it's because it integrates disciplines that haven't learned to work together over decades, like people who make movies. It's probably early on it was hard for movies to integrate sound text with film people and all, script writers and all of that. And we are creating a culture of that, but it's not well formed. And I so admire people that have pulled that off. Another thing is it usable? Is the interface so simple? I had one about guides and maps and prompts, and then I took it out because no, it should be designed so it doesn't need all that to get around. It should just be intuitively easy to use, that there's enough restraint in the possibilities that navigation is simple and other elements are simple. Is it controllable? Does it offer a high degree of control by the user? Sim Shuffle does that by letting you make a lot of different choices about how you go about a very similar concept. Is it easy? That's really like intuitive. I kind of merged those and then pulled them apart. It needs little or no explanation to run, like Toka Tea Party. I love that. You just touch things and it works. Finally, I think this is the last piece. Is it worthwhile? Is it based on values that you really believe in? Somebody showed an app, I think last year, that was really about killing and maiming. And it's like, you really want to give that to children as a model? And there are some accepted values of the culture. Of course, there's variation. But honesty is one, full of integrity, things that are nutritious, it's eco-aware. There's all kinds of things that are today's values, but certainly being kind to one another is one of them versus killing each other. Is it collaborative? Do the kids enjoy playing together? Is there joint problem solving? Are there links to communities of learners in other countries or even in their classroom or other places? Is it universal? Does it interest various groups, males and females, like boys and girls? There's definitely boy products and girl products, like trucks and princess. I think probably fall separated. And if you look in toy stores, it is like that. And so I'm not saying everything should be for both, but it's great to make things that both like. I wouldn't want to reduce everything to unisex, but to be aware that there are both kinds of people. Adults and children, various ethnic groups, people with special needs. I try my apps with kids with Down syndrome, ADD, foreign language learners. There's a lot of different kinds of people that need to use what I'm making. And it's good to think of even physical handicaps from the very start if you can. And finally, is it extensible? Does it provide editors for expanding the experience, crowdsourcing tools, like using pictures that the child has taken, that can make it better. And that's all of them. So what could I ask about dust or magic? Do you think this set of things, let's call this side dust and that side magic, you could rate those characteristics of apps, even though some are mutually exclusive, but all in all, do you think that that's a helpful list for thinking about your own design? Dust or magic? Good. Some people think it's magic.